Whatever you bring more. Whatever you personally bring to the SEC table, bring more. Get up earlier. Sing and yell and stomp louder. Enough never is. Not here. Between the magnolias and the azaleas, legends and lore regale us, downright implore us. Bring everything you got, and then bring more.
We know there's nothing like Death Valley on a Saturday night. This is Sirius XM SEC Radio, Channel 374.
Welcome back into SEC Today. My boy PB is getting ready for his big weekend at the golf. Good luck to him. Looking forward to it. Hopefully he has a good time. Getting his whisper voice ready to go. But right now, from Fox Sports came out with his ranking of quarterbacks heading into next season. So really interested to break that down with him. RJ, welcome to the show.
Hey, Aaron. How you doing, man?
Doing good. I want to start first with LSU because it's obviously really intriguing last year what happened with LSU at the quarterback position. Obviously, you come after Joe Burrow, who had probably the best individual season that I've ever seen from the quarterback position. Miles Brennan takes over. I looked pretty good, honestly, really good. It wasn't his fault early on that they couldn't stop anyone on the defensive side. He gets hurt, loses his job, and I thought Max Johnson down the stretch was really darn good, especially that game versus Florida. Really like that kid. But you have Miles at number 7, so you think the job is his heading into the fall season ahead of Max?
Yeah, I mean, if you take a look at just the statistics and how the offense was performing before Miles got hurt, Max nor TJ Finley, who's in the portal, got close to that. He threw for over 1,100 yards, just 3 interceptions, and 11 TDs. You'll take that ratio if you're Jake Peetz. And then knowing what you got coming back, being able to keep Eric Gilbert is a very big deal to me because that dude is otherworldly. I mean, not unlike your mans at UGA Darnell Washington, 6'7", 260. I want to see that dude lining up on the numbers, going after corners. You also got Kayshon Boutte back. Look, I understand that Max Johnson did a thing that nobody thought he could do against Florida. Get his first start down to like 55 scholarship players and get a W in the swamp with his dad, Brad Johnson, watching on. We know how he must feel about Florida, having gone to Florida State. And we get Marco Nelson helping him come through with the LSU game. And yet, I still think Miles Brennan is the guy. And remember, Miles Brennan was supposed to be the guy when Joe Burrow showed up. So it's not as if he does not have time in that locker room, having built some rapport with those players, not just the ones that are on the roster today, but also guys that are in the NFL that think that he can go out there and play. So I think Max Johnson is in it, but I think Miles Brennan is going to win it. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm a big fan of Max. I've known him since he was probably like 10 years old, so it's really cool to kind of see him grow up. And what he did, I just think he has a lot of great tools, and I love what Miles Brennan did too. And competition's great between those two, and we'll see who shows up. As I think a big part of it, what you talked about last, is the leadership. I mean, who really owns that locker room this summer? I think the coaches can really tell heading in fall camp, okay, this is the guy the team believes in based on his leadership, based on what they did in 7-on-7s and 1-on-1. So I think they'll get a good feeling come probably beginning of August, mid-August, when camp starts, about which way the team's kind of heading. Number 10 is a guy that, not an SEC guy, but someone that the SEC is going to see in week 1, Derek King from Miami. They will be facing Alabama in the Chick-fil-A Kickoff Classic. I'm a big fan of Derek King. He's kind of my dark horse favorite to win the Heisman. I think he's an absolute stud. And if he's healthy this year coming off the ACL, he's someone that can have a monster season. Really gave Miami a lot of confidence at a position they haven't had a lot of confidence in a long time at that quarterback spot. So if he's healthy, does Alabama need to worry week 1, or is Alabama going to do their thing regardless?
Well, that's an interesting question because we don't know what Bill O'Brien's offensive scheme is going to look like, how good they're going to be at running it. We also know that Bryce Young is a preternatural talent, one of the best quarterbacks in the sport today. But again, we ain't seen a whole hell of a lot of it. So I think from that standpoint, yeah, you should worry about Miami and D'Eriq King, especially in the first half when I think Miami has an opportunity to jump on top of Alabama and turn this into a game come the middle of the third quarter, fourth quarter. But the reason I have D'Eriq King here is because he was so good at Houston and so good at Manvel that it's really difficult not to talk about him as a top 10 quarterback. I mean, you keep Kyle Trask on the bench, and we just saw the Tampa Bay Buccaneers draft that dude, and that guy was going to win the Heisman last November. And then at Houston, you're a 3,000-yard passer, 1,000-yard rusher. Like, that's ridiculous. And for perspective here, there have only been two guys ever to go for 4,000 and 1,000, Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. He has an opportunity to do that at Miami. But the reason that I put him here is what he did against North Carolina State last November. 31 of 41, 430 yards passing. And then you look at those games that they are in, he's leading the way. You get him a couple of receivers, and you did, in like Charleston Rambo. You're going to be okay. Now, Jake Garcia is breathing down his neck, so if he's not ready to go, they got a ready-made option there. But I think, yes, Alabama's going to eventually do what they do. But D'Eriq King has an opportunity to show the NFL that he's also one of the top 10 quarterbacks in the sport today.
A guy that's going to be facing him, we talk about Alabama, Bryce Young. I wouldn't say surprised. Obviously, you knew the kid was pretty talented when he got to Alabama, being a top quarterback out of high school. But I thought he looked really darn good in the spring game. He's smaller than I thought he was. I'm like, man, this kid looks kind of tiny out there. But incredibly quick release. He's accurate. He runs that RPOs really well. Smooth in the pocket. I just think he's a heck of an athlete that, like I said, has that baseball-like release which I love. In a game like today where there's so many RPOs and the bubbles and the quick slants and that playmaking ability, he's the perfect mold. He's a guy that just, like I said, gets the ball out at different arm angles so well based on what we saw a little bit from last season and then obviously a lot there in the spring and spring game. But a guy that has not played a game as a starter, you have as a top 5 quarterback, your number 5 guy. What gives you so much confidence in Bryce Young heading into the season, especially with all the talent they lost at the receiving and running back position?
Usually you have Nick Saban coming out here saying, we'll let you know who the guy is. It might be Jalen Hurts. It might be Tua Tagovailoa. There ain't no ifs, ands, or buts about who the starting quarterback is at the University of Alabama after they just had their quarterback get drafted in the first 15 picks, okay? That is why I'm putting him at top 5. And also, take a look at what he's got in as far as weapons. Jaleel Billingsley is a tight end who was returning kicks, Aaron. All right, that's one.
Mm-hmm.
John Mechie is over there on the numbers. You saw what Agiye Hall was capable of in the spring game. They got Brian Robinson, Jace McClellan, Roy Dale back. I mean, they got dudes. And then you add this guy from Mater Dei that we thought was going to end up at USC. And then Nick Saban and, by the way, Steve Sarkisian came through and said, hey, we think you ought to run this offense over here. And he said, you know what? I think that you're right. So I'm interested to see if they continue to stick with this offense and Bill O'Brien is plug and playing from there. We'll see, right? It worked for Brian Dable. It worked for Steve Sarkisian. I hope that it works for Bill O'Brien, but I'm also going off of film, right? I've seen this kid for the past 4 years, and I've got to know him through the recruiting circuit. I get to know his father, Craig, very well, and I believe he has the goods to show up right away and contribute in the way that Tua Tagovailoa showed up right away and contribute. I think he's got a little bit of a livelier arm, goodness me, I speak for a living, than Tua Tagovailoa. And I really love that he spent a year behind Mac Jones getting to understand the offense, getting to understand game atmosphere. But I think for him, the only thing that's going to be that different is he's going to play in front of a full stadium. And we'll see whether or not that actually matters here. But it seems to in, say, the NBA. I don't know how much it's going to matter in college football, but I would think it matters a little bit more in college football because there's just 100,000 people there watching everything that you do. I think I'm putting in there on his ability, on the offense, and on Nick Saban saying, this is our guy.
I'm with you. I think he's a stud. I think he's a guy that's going to get some yards with his legs and his arms, and we know how pivotal that is. And if you're a starting quarterback at Alabama nowadays, you're most likely going to be pretty darn good. So I'm excited to see him. A guy that I'm excited to see for my dogs, JT Daniels. I'm still – I wouldn't say there's a ton of questions, but you look at Georgia down the stretch last year when he did take over – South Carolina, Mississippi State. I mean, they weren't playing the big dogs. I mean, those two teams were pretty decimated at the time. Mississippi State could barely even field the roster when they came to Athens to play Georgia. Cincinnati was an okay game. Offensively, wasn't anything special. And then you lose George Pickens. I still think the receiving core is good. I wouldn't say elite. I am interested to see Darnell Washington get more involved in the offense. But JT Daniels, full off season, get a spring game, get the summer, get fall camp, healthier, all that stuff. Did he show you enough last year? Obviously he did. He's number 4 for you right now on this list. But do you think he's a first-round type of material there at the quarterback position? Is that what Georgia has right now with JT?
I think so, but I also want to see Todd Monken get to open up his playbook and do what he was able to do with Cleveland, what he was able to do at Oklahoma State, everywhere else that he's been. I want to see him actually install, because that's a thing that they did not get to do last year, and he was upfront about that, right? Also, he thought he was going to have Jamie Newman running the offense, and they ended up having to go out there with the 4th-string quarterback to start the season, and then Dwan Mathis is starting quarterback at Temple. And then, depending on how we want to couch this, JT Daniels was ready to go and didn't play, or played as soon as he was ready to go. Either way, he's your best option, right? And we know that because of what he put on tape last year. I got issues with what he sees, Aaron, and I would like to get your perspective on this. I watched the Cincinnati game closely because I got skin in that fight, right? I believe in the group of 5. Mm-hmm. I want to see the group of 5 teams get an opportunity to play in a playoff game, and this is as close as they were going to get. And they held their own right up until the end, and I think it's a good look for Cincinnati. It's a bad look for Georgia, right? Because that defense is loaded. That offense, it's not even that you got all those wide receivers, Kearis Jackson, Jermaine Burton, Darnell Washington, Pickens when he's healthy, Dominique Blaylock. It's also because you got 5 deep at tailback. All right? Like, come on now. You got to be able to put away a team like Cincinnati, and they weren't able to do that. And I'm looking at JT Daniels, and I see 8 in the box, and I don't see him check out a run. All right? I'm looking at JT Daniels. I see 2 safeties deep, and I don't see him check into a pass. I want to see those things on the field. I want to see him have those sight adjustments and make plays, because the reason he's here is he's a 5-star quarterback with all the tools that you want, which means that if we get him right upstairs, which could be install, could be a scheme that they're running, could be him just getting comfortable in Athens, you can see a top 4 quarterback right there, and that's where I'm basing him, right? I'm putting it on Todd Monken. I'm putting it on the offense. I'm putting it on the tools around him and what we saw when he was at his best and, quite frankly, at his worst. And I thought his worst was Cincinnati, and that's still, 292 yards through the air?
Yeah, and I think in the pocket he needs to do a better job protecting the football. We saw that issue in that bowl game. But, right. Everything you hear from him, super cerebral guy, smart, knows the game of football, knows offenses. I think the biggest thing that hindered him last year was, one, he wasn't getting all the reps in fall camp. Then comes season time, he's a scout team quarterback, so he's not getting any reps in practice. The only reps he's getting is running the opposing team's offense against their number 1 defense there at Georgia. So, I understand, and you do watch the film, you see those things, okay, why aren't these plays being checked? Why isn't he checking to a run? Why isn't he into a pass? Why isn't he throwing it? Whatever. Mm-hmm. He didn't. It's not easy just to transfer in and knowing an offense on film and knowing an offense on paper is different than going out there and executing it. That needs reps, that needs times, that needs confidence actually doing it, and especially in noisy environments. So I do think he will get even better this year on the cerebral side. I do think the receivers are going to be a little bit more comfortable, hopefully a little bit better. I just think the offense line is going to be the question mark. Can they get 5 guys up there? They've recruited well. I think they'll be fine. I do think JT Daniels is definitely a big upgrade from what they had to start last year. I'll say that. I'm still, the jury's out on me if he's a first-round quarterback. I'm not 100% sold on that yet. I think he has good arm strength. Obviously, he lacks mobility. I think he's accurate. I think he's cerebral. A lot of good stuff. To me, he's similar to Kyle Trask, which is what Kyle Trask did last year. If he's what Kyle Trask was last year for Florida, as a Georgia fan, you're really darn happy. That's kind of the quarterback that he reminds me of a little bit. So I think that's like I said, that's a good thing for Georgia if it is. A guy they'll be facing in week 1, and I'm still probably going to screw up his name, DJ Uiagalelei, probably still screwed up. I still got time to get it right before the first game. He is number 3. I like the kid, man. Big arm, big kid. He's in a great offense, got some great coaches. Break him down a little bit for us.
So I have been practicing for the better part of 4 years, so I got a head start on you there, brother.
Please help me, because I just probably butchered it once again. And that was the best I've actually ever said it, I think.
DJ Uiagalelei, right? This dude,
DJ Uiagalelei.
There you go. There you go. And hey, I practiced it in a mirror, right? Like I want to be the dude out here saying the kids' names correctly, just like you. But 6'4" to 6'5", depending on who you want to believe, about 250 pounds. He's the most tooly quarterback that we've seen at this level in a very long time, dude. Got a football. He got an arm. He can throw that football over the mountains. Got a 95-mile-an-hour fastball. I watched the dude bring Clemson back from 18 down in his first start against Boston College in a game where Travis Etienne fumbles the ball on the goal line and is getting stuffed. Now, he had a pretty doggone good game receiving, but a lot of that was Uiagalelei. And then you saw the start against Notre Dame, which is where I was like, okay, we know what we got here. And I believe he's more talented than Trevor Lawrence. We'll see if he gets to be as precise and as accurate as Trevor Lawrence, but he has everything you want. Like, you look around and you see aspects of Jameis Winston and Josh Allen in his game, and he's got Brandon Streeter, he's got Tony Elliott, he's got Dabo Sweeney. They put good tools around him. Like, there's a freshman tailback out there named Will Shipley, little white chocolate. Y'all gonna love watching this dude play. I don't know about Georgia fans, but I'm gonna love watching him play.
You're watching.
Right. Justin Ross is coming back. You have the tools here to make a run here, and that game in Charlotte is circled for me, man. I'm so excited about that because both of those dudes are playing against each other in Southern California. Uiagalelei coming out of St. John Bosco, and, of course, Daniels coming out of Mater Dei. So this is old times for them. They understand what this is. The rest of us are just getting on board.
I like it. It's going to be a fun game to watch. Definitely going to see four of those quarterbacks going against each other there in the opening weekend, and I'll just run up the top two. Spencer Rattler and Sam Howell are your 1 and 2 heading into this season from Oklahoma and UNC. Love those two guys. Completely agree. Oklahoma is probably one of my favorite teams heading into the season because of Spencer Rattler. So, RJ Young, great job, great list, man. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, Aaron, I appreciate it, man. This was fun.
Always love talking quarterbacks, and when we